Monday evening. We are already hit the dog days. It's got up to 80, 90 degrees outside with a heat index of over 100 degrees. And fortunately for this area, we usually get a total of about 14 days that are like that. In the city where we lived previously, it would have been almost unbearable because tiny house, tiny area, very few trees, very little wind or airflow, so just hot and sticky and muggy, and very few of the people in my family do too well with that. I am not a fan of hot and sticky and no airflow, but being out here, there's quite a good constant breeze during the day, which is fantastic. Definitely takes the edge off. And sitting in the shade, 10, 15 degrees, probably 10 degrees if you get under one of the big shade trees, like the ones over the house there. Those cast some really good shade. And in the woods, it's maybe 20 degrees cool. I may be exaggerating a bit. I don't gauge temperature very well. But yeah, I would say probably 10, 15, maybe 20 degrees cooler in the woods. The effect that the forest ecology has on temperature and weather patterns and airflow is really astounding. There's a lot that we don't understand about that process, and a lot that we do understand but I don't understand, a lot that I haven't researched, some that I have researched, and it's so much I can't, it boggles my mind. It's amazing. But yeah, so we took advantage of that, spent some time in the woods, spent some time inside. It's really the first time that we actually decided to turn on the air conditioning because it was just so muggy. Mostly we just ran the dehumidifier because that really takes the edge off inside, and then spend as much time outside in the shade. I prefer being outside because of the airflow. So more adjusting to the weather. And we finally got around to the sassafras root. So what this is sassafras, obviously. The bark, the inner bark is what we use. So let me put this on my lap here. So what we did was, here we go. You take the root, clean it, wash off the dirt. Well, that's part of cleaning it. Peel off the outer bark, and then there's the inner bark, which is white. So you can see it kind of dried out here, but let me open this up for you. Hold on. Let's see, trying to do this with like 1.5 hands. Here we go. There. All right. Now you can use pretty much any part of the bark, but what we did was, oh, here it is. So that's actually the inner bark. The outer bark is more crumbly, so we stripped that off, remove the inner root, so all that's left is this bark here. You can use basically the whole thing. You can eat the leaves, you can boil the bark, you can, my grandmother said that they would just chop up bits of the wood and make a tea from it, but the roots are the most potent. So we did that, clean it, let it sit out to dry. It gets very crumbly, so that's the reason that we have it in this old laundry bag, and then have it on a paper plate to catch the crumbs. You can see all the bits of dirt that have just fallen in my lap from this. But the reason I brought it out here was to show you something else. So that's the sassafras root. And then, I know I keep going on about cedars, but I found a little cedar tree right here. This guy. Here, let's flatten down. There we go. Cedar tree. Right next to the garden. Probably a foot, maybe 2. So I'm going to transplant him. So that'll be really nice. Today has been a really good day for the wildlife. Down by the road, we saw, let's see, where was it? About there by the, that's the Ebenezer sign. So about down there along the bank, we saw 3 turkeys just walk up and then walk across the road. And then there was a fawn that came along the side of the house. He was kind of in bad shape, almost looked like he'd been hit, maybe like a glancing blow from a car or something. So he, like one of his eyes was big, puffy, and swollen. So we left him alone. We came out on the back deck, and he came up, sniffed around, saw us, and ran off. But yeah, I felt sorry for the guy. I imagine that he does not have his mother anymore, so I don't know how long he'll last. But even at that young age, runs faster than any of us could, so he just took off. So I hope he does all right, but there's nothing that we can or could have done. So all I can do is just hope that he's all right. So we also have our ground cover crops coming up. So this is mainly not so much for harvest, but for soil retention. It helps keep the pests away. It helps keep the moisture in the soil. It has not rained for probably a day and a half, but the soil is still moist down here, partly because of the swale and berm method swale and berm method that I talked about earlier. But we have all sorts of stuff. These are, I think those are maybe like a radish, some sort of brassica. There's some field peas and grasses and I think there's alfalfa. Yeah, alfalfa. I'm not very good at plant identification actually, but as you can see, there's all those, as opposed to, let's see, where did we not plant? Let's look here. Yeah, here we go. Oh yeah. So this is the alfalfa. You can't hardly see it, but those tiny little things there, tiny, tiny, as opposed to those. So ground cover crops are coming up. All of these, most or all of them, are edible, so we will be able to harvest from them. That is something that we're trying to do with most of what we're doing, is find a way to plant something to cover everything, basically. It needs to be good for, ideally, good for the soil, good for the plants around it, good for both feeding bugs so they don't become pests. One thing that people have this idea of is plants and animals that are their pests, their weeds. That's all they do. That isn't the case. Even things like wasps that people think they're just a nuisance. Wasps keep pests down. And pests, things like moths that lay caterpillars, that lay their eggs on like cabbage worms or whatever, they don't just eat brassicas, they eat other things. So you plant a wide variety of things that those bugs eat, and it becomes the same process as the woods. You go out in the woods and you would think, well, there's leaves, there's bugs, therefore every tree and every plant should be riddled with holes. They aren't. Now, some plants do have holes in them from bugs. Some plants do get at, but they're not falling apart. Why? It's because of the wide variety of different plants scattered everywhere. So there is, the bug actually has to work for its food. It goes to one plant it likes, and then that's it. It has to look around for something else. If you plant a whole bed full of one plant with nothing else around it, the bug that likes it will land, eat that plant, eat the next plant, eat the next plant, eat the next plant. But you do something like this and slowly build up other plants. We want to plant other things along the edge here, in between the rows, at the ends of the beds. That will allow us to harbor bugs that eat a wider variety of things and a wider variety of bugs, which then will attract wasps. David the Good on The Survival Gardener, I know I talk about him a lot. We get a lot of ideas from him. His channel is fantastic. Plus, he's a funny guy, so that's a good combination, informative and funny. But he talks about building wasp houses. We might get to that at some point, where basically after you have built up a house, good habitat for a wide variety of bugs, you build a wasp house to bring the wasps in. So the wasps keep the bugs away, the bugs competing actually keep your plants healthy. So yeah, that's that will come later. But just the general principles behind how we are doing what we're doing, and we see it making a difference. We see other people doing it that inspired us to do it, and we're loving it. One of the many, many, many things that we love about being here is the ability to test out what we have heard about edible plants that grow wild. Um, Several of my family are much more familiar with the medicinal and um, edible plants than I am. I know just enough to begin noticing how I don't just see green. Like, to the camera, it looks like green leaves and green grass. But that's not the case. For example, I am looking at these down here. Let me see if I can get down low. So, for one example, this guy, Oxalis, or wood sorrel. It's got these leaves here. These they kind of bunch together in little pairs. So there's 4 of them like that. There we go. But the main thing is these little pods. These are seed pods, and they are edible. Now, technically, they contain oxalic acid, which in large amounts is toxic. However, when I say large amounts, I do mean large amounts. You couldn't really eat that amount just by sitting down here and eating it. But the seed pods are edible. They're quite tangy. I would imagine they're pretty high in vitamin C. And these are also kind of fun. Let me get that up close. There we go. They look kind of like that. Kind of like a fuzzy hexagonal or pentagonal 5-sided cucumber almost, but very, very small. These have a whole bunch of seeds, and their method of reproduction is kind of fun because when they are full, they keep expanding and they keep expanding until the internal pressure is too much and they blow up. They split at the sides and the seeds are propelled several feet, which is impressive considering this plant, you can eat this here, this plant is only that tall and about that big across, but it will shoot seeds out to about there. So that's one. Right underneath it, plantain, or this one. Don't ask me the scientific name because I don't know. Plantago something, but there are multiple types of plantain. 3 types, I think. Broadleaf, and then there's one with a long leaf, and then there's another one I don't remember. But this is called Nature's Band-Aid. Now, I've talked about this in previous episodes. You can eat it, but it tastes kind of like mushrooms and dirt and greens and the tannins from a really strong green tea all mixed together. So not the most pleasant to the Western palate, but people around the world do eat these. And they are very high in tannic acid, which is the same thing that gives tea its strong taste and that gives wine corks their properties. Ooh, I see some more oxalis over there with a bunch of fruit. I think I'm going to go eat it, but maybe later. So this, tannins act as, they have astringent qualities, which mean they cause tissue, they encourage tissue to contract, which is why if you have ever had a cup of tea that was brewed too strong, it kind of makes that pucker up feel in your mouth. And if you've ever smelled a cork, like a wine cork or dry wine, that kind of pucker up feel, that's what it is. Those are tannins. So what you do with this is, if you have a surface wound or a bee sting, people use this for bee stings, you take this, and this is going to sound weird, you take this and you chew it up. Now this sounds bad, but unless you actually have an active mouth infection, your body is already acclimated to the bacteria in your mouth, and your saliva also has astringent properties. So your own spit poultice is not going to be a problem. So this is called a spit poultice. You put it in your mouth. I'm just going to show you. Put it in your mouth. I'm serious. People have done this for centuries. Modern herbalists still do it. Spit it out. So it looks like that. Doesn't taste too good. I probably shouldn't do that. I should just swallow it. It's probably good for me. So you don't chew it to a paste, but just so it will be there. Slap it on the wound. Wrap a bandage around it. Now this is after you've cleaned the wound, and you wrap a bandage around it. And we have tested this. We've tested it on bee stings, on tick bites, where sometimes I can't even speak my own native English. Splinters. I have actually seen it. You put it on, the splinter's in there, you can't dig it out with tweezers. You put this on your arm, 5 minutes, pull it off, the splinter is on the outside of the skin. Now I don't have a splinter to demonstrate this with. That might be fun sometime, just to do like a before and after thing. But yeah, you know what? I'm gonna eat this. Yeah, it does taste like green, dirty mushrooms. Not the most pleasant thing, but people get used to eating stuff that they eat. I mean, people all over the world eat grubs and bugs, and they think it's fine. So I am becoming more of the opinion that taste is acquired rather than innate, because there are things that people eat in America that other cultures think is disgusting. Like I have heard, I've never actually talked to anybody, but from Japan, but from what I have heard, many people in Japan, especially the older generations, think hamburger is disgusting, but they will eat octopus. And we over here tend to think octopus is disgusting. So I would tend to think that taste is more acquired than innate. But yeah, so there's oxalis, there's plantain, there's a maple tree. You can eat the leaves. I'm not sure what their nutritional quality is, but they are edible. The little helicopter seeds that they drop, when the seeds are still green, they're edible as well. Let's see, what else is edible, at least that I am aware of. I'm sure there's some other things I see that I don't know are edible. I don't know what this guy is. This guy? I don't know. But there is... clover. Clover is good for animal fodder. Let's get closer here. Let's see. Clover. Yes. Here we go. Here's an intact clover leaf. There you go. Clover leaf. 3-leaf clover. And I don't know if the leaves are edible. They probably are, but I don't know. The flower is edible. Now this one is a little old, so let's go over here to one that isn't too old. Our baby birds like these. This is what they look like. Not the birds, the clover. So it looks like that. If you're not familiar with clover, I pity you because it is all over the place. But if you're in another state, if you're watching from another, I don't know where clover is. Oh, let me get my hand out of the way. There we go. So these are edible. They smell good. They are the slightest bit sweet. I don't remember if people used to. Oh yeah, it's very slightly sweet. Dandelion heads are edible too, but I don't see too many over here. There's one over there. I'm not going to show you what a dandelion is because I know you know what it is. But there's one over there, but it's closed up. So that is what I can see right now. And there's some other things. I don't know what that one is. This is a pretty flower. I don't know if it's a daisy maybe. There. Probably a daisy. Probably edible. Daisy is in the aster family, which is absolutely massive. But I don't know if that's edible. So that's all of that. There is also, yeah, that's what I got right now. One thing that I've been thinking about is how people say that you have to eat a whole lot of greens, and from our research, I mean, it makes sense. If you look at a lot of traditional cultures that have been around for hundreds or thousands of years without industrial equipment and farming and processing techniques, it seems that they either consume a massive amount of green vegetation, or they consume a very large amount of dairy, which makes sense. Dairy is the animal processed um, green juice. I mean, things like cows, goats, various other bovine and sheep and all sorts of stuff. They eat greens all day. So theoretically, milk is basically white green juice, I guess. Um, but the greens that we're accustomed to eating, or at least that I'm accustomed to eating, collards, kale, spinach, arugula. I don't eat arugula too much. I don't mind the taste. I know a lot of people who don't like arugula because it's so strong. But just wondering, how do people consume massive amounts of greens if it takes so much space to grow? I mean, if you've ever grown kale or collards, it's like that, like a square foot or two of space for one plant, and you take those and you cook them down, and they make like that much. Seriously, how am I supposed to grow enough greens to eat healthily? But crazy idea. What if all this, or most of this, is edible? What if? What if I intend to find out if that is maybe true? We'll see. If I find out, I'll let you know. So most of the time, when we find a plant, we want to find out how we can use it, how we can propagate it, how we can fit it in. But some plants, we're not really going to do that with. This is one example. This is a rose. And initially you think, oh, it's a rose. We ought to keep that. Well, this one, first, it's not native, and it's basically impossible to kill it. This is multiflora rose. You can see it has, let's see, of course this one doesn't have any blossoms. They have very, 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 very small blossoms. Very small. They smell amazing, and they're very pretty, but they replicate like crazy. And the way I have heard somebody put it who has experience with multiflora rose, if we went through and cut down and pulled up and burned every single multiflora rose that we could find, we still wouldn't kill it. Now, we're not going to do that, but our approach is kind of going to be, well, leave it alone. When it's in the way, we replace it with something else. But yeah, so there are some things that don't need any encouragement, and this is one of them. Again, we're not going to kill it at every opportunity, but when it gets in the way, we will tell it, hey, you've served your purpose. There is a new purpose, so let's put a new plant in that is going to serve a better purpose. One thing that things like this do that is beneficial is they act as placeholders. They are thorny, so they keep things out. Things like this do an excellent job of preserving the damaged land. They don't need a whole lot of nutrients to grow, so they do serve the purpose of it's basically a stopgap measure. Whoops, sorry, I kind of fumbled with the phone there. Like I said, a stopgap measure. If the land is not being taken care of, if that particular part of dirt does not have something more beneficial to take up that space, the multiflora rose can come in and protect that area. But it is our responsibility as Yahweh's stewards to, when we come along and we see, well, this is here, this is serving its purpose, because it is basically, it is waiting for us. It is there to keep this area, it keeps it from eroding. It provides regular mulch for the piece of land underneath it, because it will, hello bird, it will drop its leaves, it will drop its flowers, it will fix nutrients into the soil, it will adjust the acidity of the soil. So it is a good thing for it to be there for a certain time. And that's another thing that we will need to pay attention to on this property. A general permaculture principle, a general stewardship principle. Everything is going to be in a state of flux. As the book of Ecclesiastes says, there is a time and a season for everything. Everything has its place and its time, and there will be times when it is gone. Humans work that way. Yahweh appoints a time for us to be born, and a time for us to live, and a time for us to die. We have a place, and when our place and our time is over, we are gone. Even these trees serve that purpose. They can live for decades or centuries or millennia, depending on the species and the tree, but eventually they will die. Eventually they will fall down, like this branch here probably came down during a storm, maybe? We haven't had a storm in a couple days. No, this was a tree. I don't know why I don't remember that being there, but now it's a tree. But sure enough, it was rotten to the core. I don't know if that fell apart or if it was pushed down, but it had its time, it had its place, and I believe, I am firmly convinced that there's this false dichotomy, this idea of, well, either you leave everything alone or you chop it all down and replace it with whatever you want. Those are not the only two options. Like I've said many times before at length, so I won't belabor the point, but we are stewards. Part of our responsibility is to go in, see how things work, what we have, what the goal ought to be, and tweak things. We have to know what the goal is. We have to do it in alignment with the movement of the Holy Spirit and the nature of Yahweh and our nature as His stewards. We do not own it, but we are also not part of it. We are not one with the universe. We are not one with nature. We are separate from it, but we are in it and we are responsible for it. So, the idea that, oh, don't touch it. No, I'm going to touch it. I'm going to take care of it. I have to take care of it. It's my responsibility and my privilege. It is my destiny, if you will, to steward it. But I'm also, that does not mean that I go in and, oh, well, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Knock it down, replace it with whatever I want. So, I said I wasn't going to belabor it, so I won't. So yeah, everything has its time and its place. The multiflora rose has its place, and when we have when we get around to using that space better, its time will be over and it will be supplanted. So that is the plan. Oh, there's another thing I want to show you. Wednesday night, it's been muggy all day. Heat index high of 120 degrees, but we've been doing what we can. So it's about 8:30 at night, and I was out here transplanting some more cedar trees, and I found a painted box turtle. So this guy fits in my hand, about that big. I didn't realize this, but the reason they're called box, well, first painted because of all those markings, box because he really shuts up tight. See there? There are very few cracks in there. But he wasn't going to open up. I sat and stared at him for like 5 minutes to see if maybe he would come out, but he wouldn't. So I'm going to put him back. Hope he gets where he was going. Wednesday, another hot, muggy day. Not quite as hot, but just as muggy as Tuesday and Monday. But we still got some stuff done. One of them is the rain barrel. So let me step back. That's about what that looks like. Keep it about 18 inches off the ground so we can fit a 5-gallon bucket underneath it for when we need to use the water. We still need to put the spigots in down at the bottom. Refit the downspout. So what we did was we removed the downspout up top where it connects, and then there is a cheap plastic. It's flexible, so you can bend it, kind of like a bendy straw. So what it does is it goes in here, and this is an overflow. Have to keep up with that because it builds up debris and then breeds mosquitoes, so you have to keep that clean. And then keeping the spigots clean regularly also helps. But yeah, so make sure that we made sure that the
Oh, no, not yet.
cinder blocks are level. Some of the cinder blocks we brought from the previous house, and others, there are several piles of cinder blocks actually out in the woods there. So, let's see, what was that wheelbarrow up there? Oh yeah, we're also building a rocket stove, but that's more of an experiment than anything. And then got the drain pan, just in case. Have some more cinder blocks set up. Oh, this is the garden beds, raised garden beds for the grandparents. So they have those raised. We pulled it from a let's see, I don't know if you can see it back there. It's about back there. This big pile of dirt that we used as raised beds. Got lettuces and radishes, and this is the north side of the house, so it gets less sunlight. So things like radish and lettuces, leafy greens, those usually do well in partial sun rather than full sun like we have a bunch of those garden beds out there. So we did that today. But my favorite is we got the chickens moved into the run and the coop. So we have hawks in the woods back there. So what we had to do was create some sort of netting for the chickens to hide under. So this was netting we had from the previous place. It's just cheap green plastic mesh. Not the same thing we used for the fence because it won't keep raccoons out, but it will mean that there's something for the chickens to hide under, because hawks, birds of prey in general, since they they swoop in, grab their prey, and then swoop back out, they need a lot of room. They need room to come in, grab it, kill it, and then fly out the way that they came. So this reduces their ability to do that. We have some of the compost pile that we've been building up. Boy, I can't see there. The sun's right over there. So that the chickens will be able to forage through that. Put a ramp. Right now the chickens are small, so we don't need much of a ramp. One of their feeders and waterers out here. We still have about an hour and a half. Woo! Sorry for blinding you there. Still have about an hour and a half of sunlight left. I'll close that gate in a bit. So if the chickens want to come out, they can. But here they are on the inside. Let's see if I can... No, they are still very small, but hello little guys, excuse me, pardon me. They're very, very curious little things. No, 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 no. No, you don't. Here, let's close this. Close, close, close. Move it, move it, move it. Come on, move it. There we go. Here they are. Hold on. Let me get latched. I will show you. I will show you. Yeah, we need to get that. That's an electrical cord for a light bulb. We're gonna get that fixed. That has no business being in the same place as chickens. So, let's see. Hi. There you go. Oop. Nope. They're curious, but they don't really want to be picked up. There you go. I like that. Hello. Off he goes. So they've got a couple feeders and waterers. So this is 8 inches deep of pine shavings. So that's good for them because it will absorb their detritus. And it actually isn't quite 8 inches. It's more 8 inches over there, but not quite 8 inches over here. So we actually got some more pine shavings. It's fairly cheap. Out in the rural areas, Tractor Supply is amazing. So we've been going there for various things like the pine shavings. So yeah, all that cuteness. It is interesting to see the similarities between human children and babies. I mean, obviously there's a vast difference between human and animal, but the behavior of young is similar. Oh, there he goes. Is he actually going out? Nope, just exploring. Running around like that one, using their wings, exploring stuff. It's great. Oh, there he goes. They're so much fun. They can be kind of annoying. Their behavior can be annoying at times. Just like, why do you do this? Why do you do this? But most of the time it's just adorable. I love it. So I'm out here Tuesday morning. It's going to get even hotter than it was yesterday, so I'm in the shade doing a little bit of work. I was going to transplant a cedar and came across these two. Not that big one, but there's a little one behind it and the one there. And down in this area there are dozens of cedars. Over there's all the holes that I dug for them. Let me see if... There, you can't hardly see it, but there's a big old patch. It really blends in, but those are all the cedars that I dug out of those holes there. And there's this one little guy that I found. Not a cedar, he's a toad. And I don't think I've shown any toads here. So, let's see. Oh, there he is, going in the grass. Okay, let me see if I can get him so you can see him. Alright, so here we go. So, toads are amphibious. They do have skeletons. So, you want to treat them pretty carefully because they do have bones. Don't grab him hard. You might break him. Another thing, here we go. If you're gonna grab a toad, now there's a myth that toads are toxic. Now they do have a toxin that they store in their skin that makes them unpleasant to eat. So don't eat him or lick him. But here's the toad. Say hi, Mr. Toad. He's trying to get away. If you're gonna hold him top and bottom. Don't grab the legs. They have very powerful hind legs. That's how they jump. That's how they get around. And from what I have heard, their legs are strong enough that they can actually, if you hold the leg and they kick, you can actually tear the leg off, which I don't want to do. That would be very cruel. I don't want to do that to this guy. So I'm just gently holding him like this so you can see. If you get him really close, let's see if you can see him here. There's kind of a gold rim to his eye there, and that's him breathing there. They breathe both through their nostrils and through their skin, so they stay near water. They're not like frogs. Frogs need to stay constantly wet, stay in the water. They breed in the water. Toads, he's in the wet grass here where he can find all sorts of bugs and a hiding place. So right now I'm not hurting him. You would probably hurt a frog if you were to keep it out of the water this long, but the toad is just fine. So there he is. So that's it. I'm gonna let him go now. Bye bye, Mr. Toad. Move along. Yep. So there. He's cute. He's fun. I've lost him. I'll just make sure to stay away from that area so don't step on him. I have never actually stepped on a toad. A couple previous videos felt like I've stepped on one and then find out, nope, it's just dirt clod or whatever. So they do seem to be pretty aware. I'm not sure where they come from. They do live in basically everywhere. They'll hide under rocks, they'll hide under grass. I can't even see, oh, the only way I saw him was because I saw movement in the grass. They hide in little holes. I don't know if they dig holes, but there's all sorts of crawdad holes through this. This ground is fairly wet, pretty much ever since we've been here about a month ago. Even when it hasn't rained for a couple days, the ground is still wet. We're not sure why, considering this is about the highest point of the property. I don't know. We're not quite sure. It's actually even puzzles. That's not even a word. It puzzles all of us. But very wet. Lots of crawdad holes. Lots of toads that live and hide in the old crawdad holes. So yeah, there's a little bit of wildlife for the day. So there was this turtle here yesterday, and of course, turtle being a turtle, when I picked him up, he balled up and wouldn't come out. I set him down on our deck and sat there for about 5 minutes, and he didn't open up. But my dad found him again. It might be the same one, I don't know. Put him down, and I've been transplanting some more cedars. And he's opened up, so I want to see if I can get this on video. So I'm going to turn this around here. There we go. Now, the phone camera is deceiving. He's about the size of my hand. Let's see if I can zoom in. This is really grainy. Sorry about the quality there. But see if we can. Oh, come on, where is he? There he is. See if maybe we can get in front of him here. He knows I see him. Turtles may be slow, but they ain't stupid. Oh, he's there he is. His little head. See if I can zoom out some. There we go. And there we go. Yeah, he's slowly pulling his head in there. You can sort of see him. See if I can get close. I'm dying. Hi there. I'm not going to get any closer. I don't want to scare him any more than he already is. He already has his head halfway pulled into his shell. So I'm going to back away and just let him do his thing. And I'll go about the rest of my day, which isn't very long. Sun's already set. It's kind of balancing for, there we go. Yeah, I can't see the sun anymore. The sky's turning that dark, dusk blue, and time to call it a day. Friday morning, just about breakfast time. We are now selling firewood. Got some stacked at the back there. Any trees that trees or logs that are too good to compost or for hugelkultur or to lay down at the or just to leave in the woods to provide all sorts of stuff. They provide nutrients for the soil if the logs are just left on the ground, and their branches provide habitat for all sorts of critters. But if they're too good for that and too crooked for lumber, then we chop it up and sell it as firewood. So that's a new venture for us. Haven't actually sold any as of this recording. I think we need to get the word out, maybe tell the neighbors, tell people at the gas station, whatever. The community in this area is vastly different than what we were accustomed to up in the city. You know, at least in our neighborhood, there wasn't really the sense of community, but out here there's more of that. We met one of our neighbors at a gas station. It was great. So yeah, neighborhood, firewood, lots of good stuff. We've also taken to pruning our tomato plants. And when I heard of pruning tomato plants, I thought, what is that? Well, let me turn the camera around here so you can see. So, this is our tomato plant. And these are the regular branches. Let me see if I can focus the video there. There we go. Alright, so these are the regular branches. And from here is where they will try to grow extra little plants, little sprouts, like this guy there. I don't know why this can't focus. Anyway, so there's this tiny little bit in here. I'm just going to pick him off. Boink. So right there in the corner there, I think they call those suckers. Oh, look, there's another one. Way down at the bottom. There we go. Boink. Now you can use pruning shears or just snip them off with your fingers. Make sure you don't snip them and peel off the bark. That's no good. Here's another one. This little guy there. Take him off. Alright, this is getting... Let me turn this around. So yeah, just pruning those. The reason for that is that plants in general, trees, tomato plants, squash vines, I don't know how to prune squash vines yet, so we're not doing any of that. But plants in general, they will expend as much of their energy as they possibly can during the growing season to just grow. They'll follow sunlight and then they try to get as much sunlight as possible. But they don't have eyeballs. They don't, you know, they feel they have completely different senses, so to speak, than we do. So most of the time the plant knows best, but sometimes it needs a little bit of help. It's part of our responsibility as stewards. You know, I believe it's chapter 2 of Genesis when it says that Yahweh put man in the garden to work it and to take care of it. Nature can get along fine on its own, but we can help, we can improve it. So, in this case, trimming those little suckers means that it allows more nutrients to go to the vines that are already established, the vines that you can see are getting sunlight, and it will also help produce better fruit because it's not going all into producing a whole bunch of vines. Now, if the tomato plant was growing out there in the woods, it would want to grow more vines. It would not spend as much energy on producing fruit because it would need to get as much sunlight as possible. But out here, it's in full sun most of the day. It's only about 8 o'clock right now. You can already see some sunlight coming through here. So in about, probably 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, it's going to get sun until about 7 o'clock tonight. Oh, there it is. It's coming over the tree right now. Hey! So... here comes the sun. Don't ask me to sing. Sorry, I just did. I won't bug you with that anymore. Anyway, that's a Beatles reference. I don't really like the Beatles, but that's a personal preference. I'm not going to bring that up anymore. Anyway, tomato plants. Pruned them, produced more fruit. Good stuff. Saturday morning, got some transplants here. This is a white oak, we think. Have a couple more of them down that way. It's doing all right. Watering them every day. Just make sure that the ground is always moist. That's about all I can do. I'm not using chemical fertilizers or anything. Maybe put down a little mulch. I don't know. I have to do a little bit of research on that. We also transferred the peats to the coop today. There we go. And they're over. Can't hardly see them. Oh, let's see if we can balance maybe for that there. There we go. Over in the corner here. Unlike the chicks, they try to stick together as much as possible. Let me take this off. So now, down here. Boy, this is bright, 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 bright. There we go. All right. So there, over here in the corner. And they, there we go. Let me turn this around here. There they are. So they're all there in the corner, hiding in the tall grass. There's actually about 10 of them in there. And they look small, but they're about that tall. There's one of the big ones in there too. They are of, originally the breed is of African origin, so they are accustomed to heat, tall tall grass. They're also ridiculously skittish, which works for now. You know, it's all right. I think they have found a spot that they really like, because there's tall grass and some exposed dirt for dust bathing. Birds in general, they get oil and dirt build up in their wings, and they need to take, most birds need to regularly preen and dust themselves in order to absorb those oils so they can fly properly, and just keeping themselves clean is a big part of, actually it takes a lot of time. They spend a lot of time preening. So I see some of them panting. Birds will, since they don't really have sweat glands, they sweat through their mouth, so they'll go kind of like this. You can't see anything, but you see their throat expand, so I'll see if I can get them some water. I have kind of taken on the family role, I guess, of the tree transplanter. I don't know. It's not an official title, but I have transplanted a whole lot of trees. One of them that I'm experimenting with is a few pawpaw trees. Not papaya, which is also called pawpaw. Interesting history behind that. Apparently, European settlers were familiar with the tropical pawpaw or papaya first, and when they came into Indiana, they were already familiar with the papaya, and they saw sort of a resemblance between the papaya and a tree native to Indiana, so they also called it the pawpaw. But the way language changes now, papayas are generally just called papayas, and pawpaws are usually the fruit that is native to Indiana. So this is a small one. Got him right here. Now I transplanted him, so he's not doing very well. They have a complex root system, and I'm not very good at this yet. I don't have a whole lot of experience, so I only managed to get about that much root on him, which for this whole plant is not good. There's one over there. I'm not even going to show you because it's just withered. It's probably dead already. But there's one that I am happy about. He seems to be doing okay. He's actually the smallest, but he's doing better. This guy. This one. So, pawpaws, well, you can identify their leaves. They look like that. Well, except for the holes. Bugs have been at it. But they have this kind of woody stem and leaf at the top, at the end of the branch. Here, let me turn it over. Leaf at the end of the branch here, and leaves that they don't alternate, like one here, one down here. They're directly opposite each other, and it follows that pattern all the way to the central trunk. The reason that I'm transplanting these is because I have had pawpaws, and they are amazing. They have many, many, many names, including, I think, the custard apple. No, that's a different one. Indiana banana. Indiana banana is one of the many names for the pawpaw, and it does kind of have a taste like a cross between a banana, a mango, and a pear, maybe. It really is a unique flavor. They're very high in manganese and magnesium, which is important because most of us are deficient in that. Most people, especially in North America, manganese and magnesium are important, and pawpaws have a bunch of those. Pretty high protein content as well. Plus, they're a native tree to Indiana, so we definitely want to keep those going. And I just like pawpaws, and I like the idea of growing growing some of them. If any of these survive, I would like to train them and prune them, but that will take some time. The first challenge is going to be having them survive, and the next one is going to be keeping the fruit away from the deer, because deer absolutely love the fruit, and they will eat them as soon as they're ripe, and they're only ripe for a couple days, and then they rot. You can't eat. There's about a 2 to 3 day period where you can eat the fruit. If you eat it before it's ripe, it is sour and tastes awful. And then when it's ripe for about 3 days, and then it goes bad. You can't refrigerate it, and you can freeze it for maybe a week. So yeah, it's one of those things, get it while it's there. So we'll see. I'm really looking forward to it. I think this guy will survive. I don't know about the others, but I'll do my best. Sunday night, we are approaching the summer solstice, so I will be doing some research on pruning trees. According to a book that I had read, Grow a Little Fruit Tree. I don't remember the author's name offhand, but the lady who wrote the book had decades of experience pruning trees for manual harvesting rather than big commercial machine harvesting. The idea that you can actually prune a tree to be very small and produce a lot of fruit at the same time. But also pruning is good for directing a tree's health. So I'll be looking into that, because the summer solstice is a good time to do some pruning, certain types of pruning, because the tree has it changes the way that it responds to outside influence during the summer. So I might be talking about some of that in a bit. But we got more garden beds dug. Now these are the same concept as those, but those are 40 feet long. These are only 10 feet long. So we did all of this in 2 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 beds. About 3 beds a day. There were 4, 5, or 6 of us, and it took it took a few hours each day. So we've got all sorts of stuff in that. So that's always fun. Looking forward to seeing them sprout. So that's it for the week. Yeah, some other smaller things. We've gotten familiar with the local antique mall. Got a crosscut saw. Fantastic. Actually, that was not the mall. That was online. Got an old wooden ice cream maker. Completely manual, not electric at all. One of those where you have to put in ice and salt on the outside to keep the cream cold, and then you crank it for a long time, apparently. But that brings back memories for those of us who are old enough to remember those, and for people like me who I've barely even seen one of those. It's a slice of history. So looking forward to that. That might be a while, but we'll see, and we will see you next week.